glad to be here and to have the opportunity to think with you tonight about the meaning of the religious experience. As a background for our thinking together, I want to read two things. How wonderful it is, beyond all power fully to understand, that our lives are never left to themselves alone. It does not matter where we are, nor what tasks consume our energies. There's always present something more than we ourselves are at any given moment. Always we are visited. Sometimes it is by an idea for which we do not seem to have had any previous preparation. Sometimes by the penetration of an inspiration that shoots us out of the common path onto roads of high adventure. Sometimes by the accumulated energy of a precious memory shedding a quiet haze over the entire landscape along which we walk. Sometimes we are called to do a hard job before there is time to falter. A quickening of the pulse, a tightening of the mind, and away we go. Always we are visited. We are surrounded by the memory, the witness, and often the presence of those others whose names we may or may not know, whose striving to make possible so much upon which we draw as our common heritage. Those who carry the light against the darkness. Those who stand up against tyranny, even when to stand is not only idiotic, but suicidal. Those who forget themselves in the full response to something that calls them beyond the reaches of their dreams and the reaches of their hope. We are surrounded by the testimony of those who, out of the life of the Spirit, speak directly to our spirit and to our need. Those men and women with whom we identify in our moments of depression and despair, and in our moments of joy and delight. Therefore, our Father, we remember with gratitude to Thee all the springs of joy, renewal, and recreation that are our common heritage and our common lot. We thank Thee for so great a gift, and we offer to Thee our dedication and our response. And then this in every life, there are a few special moments that count for more than all the rest, because they meant the taking of a stand, a self-commitment, a decisive choice. It is the pressing need to find meaning for one's life, to subordinate the whole of life to that meaning. It is this need, this inner aspiration, which is from God. All the ideologies, all the doctrines, and all the formulae drawn up by men will pass. Every ideal, too, grows old in its turn. Only the true and the living God remain. Thus, the knowing encounter with the living God is the greatest possible human event. The circumstances and forms of this encounter may be infinite in their variety. It always comes as such a surprise that the conviction is inescapable that this is the doing of God, the result of his direct initiative. There is a favorite paragraph of mine from the book of Jeremiah, and it is this: a curse on him who relies on man, who depends upon mere human aid. For he is like some desert scrub that never thrives, set in a salt, solitary place in the steppes. But happy is he who relies on God, who has God for his confidence, for he is like a tree planted beside a stream, sending its roots down to the water. It has no fear of scorching heat. It goes on bearing fruit, and all around him is barren. And it looks out on life with quiet eye. The religious experience it is very important. More than that, it is very critical that our minds and our thinking should be directed to this area of the common experience, of the common quest of the human spirit at this critical moment in human history. If I were 20 years younger and of the same mind that I have now, I would devote the next 10 years in making a critical, analytical study, comparative study, between this period in Western civilization and culture and history as compared with the end of the 19th century, as the Roman Empire began to decline, to disintegrate. There are certain striking comparisons, and I simply salute these in passing, because if they are critically examined, they may not be comparisons at all, but this is how it seems to me. During the closing days, the eclipse and the fading of the Roman Empire, for several decades, something happened so that the universe decided not to rain. Long months, years of drought. And that is equivalent to a gasoline shortage now. In addition to this, the Roman citizen, the average Roman citizen, had lost his sense of responsibility for the fate of the empire. They had retreated into the privacy of their little worlds and their affairs, and left matters that had to do with the destiny of the country, the government, to the Senate, and to some other people who at that time were in power, including the emperor. In addition to that, there was a loss of faith in the integrity and vitality of the religion of the empire, which was Stoicism. One historian characterizes it as a loss of nerve. This meant that there were no points on the horizon to which the individual could look to give to himself a sense of security, a sense of bearing, a sense of direction, some overarching, brooding guide that would nudge him on the elbow when he made the wrong turn in the road. This had disappeared. A phenomenal increase in homosexuality between men and boys. And floating up from North Africa in spiritual gasps was a mystery religion. Meditation, sacrifices of blood, all of this. Now into that vacuum, or should I say maelstrom, emerged the religion of a Palestinian Jew, Jesus of Nazareth. Now, am I suggesting to you that the stage is set again for the emergence of a religion which seems to take into account all that is needful for the peace and security of the human spirit in the midst of a world that seems to be disintegrating before its very eyes? I don't know. But if I were 20 years younger, I would spend 10 years pursuing this. So those of you who are very young and full of ambition and dreams, try it. I will be gone, but somebody will be here to read it. I begin then with the overall proposition or statement or affirmation about religious experience, that the essence of religious experience is what I'm calling tonight the givenness of God in his creation. The givenness of God. Don't bother about trying to know what on earth I'm talking about now. Just sort of wander along with me. And suddenly, next year, if I drink any, oh, that's what he was talking about. To me, God is the creator of life, and the living substance, that out of which all particular expressions of life arise. Not merely the creation of the individual life, I don't mean this, but the ground of being, out of which all individual manifestations of vitality emerge in the first place. And a commonplace way to express that is that life itself is alive. Not merely are individual expressions of life alive, but life is alive. The mind can't quite grasp this. You know you are alive, and the person next to you may be alive, and you know your dog, your cat, all these things are alive, but that life itself is alive, that that there is a profound rhythmic pulse beat that supports and sustains all alivenesses of every kind. God is not merely the creator of life and the living substance, but in my thought, God bottoms existence so that there is no aspect of man's experience with life in any of its dimensions that is outside of the divine context. Now, my thinking begins with this, so that when I say that the meaning of the religious experience in my thought is, it is an expression, a manifestation of the givenness of God in his creation. Therefore, any expression of life is within calling distance of the very idiom of God as a part of creation. So that the religious experience then becomes, in my thought, the experience in which the individual has a sense of being first grounded, no, that's not the right word. Enveloped, no. Contained with vitality. It is not what I create with my mind. It is what I experience when I am stripped to that which is literal and irreducible in me. It bypasses the mind. It bypasses the emotions. It is when I am completely stripped of all of the things to which I refer when I wish to give meaning to myself. And therefore it is the most private and the most intimate of all experiences. And even when I talk about it, it is as if I'm living my private life in public. So that the religious experience then is the experience in which I become conscious of what I'm calling now the givenness of God in me. It is private, it is personal, it is intimate, it is unique and universal. It is an interesting thing to me, and I didn't find out how long do I talk. It is an interesting thing to me that the one religion that is most exclusive, most unique, most idiomatic, that's the word, namely Judaism, the religion in which the individual dares to affirm a sense of private contract with the creator of life, a covenanted people, so that their religion and their God, they stand over against all the others. They are what the word felt like and looked like when the word was spoken. And it is that private, unique, sectarian, if you please, religion, out of which has come the universal doctrine. This is the paradox. Now, that's an aside to pursue. The religious experience then is when I am aware of the givenness of God in me. Now, what on earth am I talking about? Now, this is what I mean. When I am most me, when I am the word you want to give. When I am most private, most personal, when it is as if I and I alone existed in all the universe. When I am most utterly without rationalizations, without defenses, without just me laid bare. And in that kind of stripping, there emerges in me a sense of my uniqueness. It is only then that I have a sense of having the great privilege of just being me. All this, I no longer must go around with my defenses up. I can just be as I am, making no case, no apology, just as if I were a part of the rhythm of all existence. When now I make this sort of experience about which I'm talking and thinking an object of thought, when I make this experience an object of thought so that I can look at it and think about it, it is then that I develop theology. It is then that I develop creeds. It is then that I develop denominations. It is then that I develop all of these handles. The effort on the part of the mind now to reduce the fluid movement of religious experience to manageable units of thought and reflection so that I can handle it, I can talk about it, I can say, it means this, it means that. when the experience is so full, it cannot contain a meaning. That's why all doctrines, all creeds, all dogmas, however crucial and important they are inventions of the mind. They are what the mind does when the religious experience can be damned, yes, that's the word. You see, it's fluid. You see, your mind is that. Mind. You see, the religious experience is fluid, it's dynamic, it's well, I want to use the word like yeasty, but I don't mean that quite. But it's alive. And it can't stay put. But the mind can't deal with it unless it stays put. So the mind builds a sort of dam or something like that. So that the religious experience can get still and settle down. Then the mind now extracts from that theology, doctrines of God, all of this. Meanwhile, the religious experience has gone on experience. So that every doctrine, every theology, every creed, every dogma, however important, critical, meaningful, significant it may be, is just always a little out of date. Because it states what the religious experience was. Therefore, as soon as you get the statement made, the first thing you have to do is to tear it down and start again. Now, another step. Is there a difference between the religious experience and any other meaningful experience? Now, bear in mind, the simple definition that I'm using is the religious experience is when I become aware of the givenness of God in me. The givenness of God. It isn't something that I can bring to pass in me, an awareness by will. It isn't something that I can do, can experience by doing all of the things which seem to be required in order to have it happen. No. There is something, what's the word? There's something enigmatic, no, that's the word. There's something arbitrary about the Spirit of God. And this is the problem that always emerges when the individual works out disciplines, spiritual disciplines, spiritual exercises. There is something about them which says that if I can get the formula, then automatically I may become conscious of the awareness which I'm calling the givenness of God. so all through the history of religions on this planet, men have tried to find ways by which they can ready themselves. We call them spiritual exercises, even prayers, meditation, all of these. That I can create a vacuum into which the awareness of God will move. And visit me. And let me visit him. And I don't want to be misunderstood here. This demand, this activity on a part of the human spirit in this dimension is one of the great expressions of the life of prayer, isn't it? But if I can find the words, if I can get, as Eckhart says, if I can rid myself of all creatureliness, then automatically God fills me up. That's only one side of it. There is a quality, I think, of a profound independence that the Creator of all existence has. And I do not think that it is ever quite possible for me to pull the string, however holy, and make him jump. I have to wait in season and out of season. Searching all the corridors of my life and experience, cleaning out everything which in my own feeling and thought would cause him to pass me by. Spread out all the vast agony and desperation of my need and my anguish. So that enough pressure will be put upon him, that my need will bend his will to my necessity. Perfectly human, perfectly right. But I must always remember that there is an awful arbitrariness about the Creator of existence. I may prepare, I may do all the things that are necessary, purge my life, confess my sins, forgive my enemies, go through all the things that my mind and the sensitive spirit and the anguish of my heart might require in order that I might be visited. And you may not come. And some other time, when I am going about my other kind of business, and the thought of him is not remotely moving around on the edges of my horizon, he appears. Therefore, the book says, around any turn in any road, anywhere, without announcement, I might find myself in the presence of the burning bush and hear a voice say, "Take off your shoes, because the place where you are now standing is a holy place." This is the nature of the religious experience. I am under obligation to ready myself through discipline and all the other things we may be mentioning before the series is over. But bearing in mind that the Creator of existence is the Creator of existence. And if I could make him do my will, he would not be worthy of my worship. Now, let's give just 2 or 3 more minutes. The religious experience at its core is the awareness of the givenness of God in me and in his creation. George Fox says that he came down from Pender's Hill after his vision. All the world had a new smell. That's what he was talking about. When I was a boy in Florida, we used to sing a spiritual called "Come Out the Wilderness." My feet looked new. My hands looked new. The world looked new when I came out the wilderness. But I can't determine it. I can only be ready and wait. Our responsibility is readiness. It is God's will and purpose, however we may define it, to move in accordance with dimensions of reality that my little mind cannot grasp. My responsibility is to be ready. The Master illustrates this, and I will stop now, I think. In the parable that he tells, do you remember? He says that there was a man who had a great estate, and he decided he wanted to take a trip. So he called 3 of his important figures on his estate to a conference. He said, "I'm going away, and I'm going to have some heavy expenses, and I need to recoup my finances when I get back. So I'm going to give you $100. I'm going to give you 50. I'm going to give you 25. Now, let that money work as furiously as possible against the day when I come back for the report." So, he came back. The first man reported. He said, "You gave me $100. Here's $127.50. Good," he said. The second man, "You gave me 75. Here's $92.35. Good." Now, the only man who made a speech was the man to whom he gave the $20. He said, you may not know it, but you have a bad reputation. You reap where you haven't sown, you put coupons where you haven't invested, I knew that. So I hid the money against the day when you return. And here it is. I wish I had known Jesus. He said, the man who owned the estate had this third man cast off the estate into outer darkness. Why? Because he did not show an increase? No. He didn't work at it. That's all that's required. There's no guarantee about anything except the God in me is always reaching for the God in all of life. And when they come together in me, I have what is called the religious experience. A curse on him who relies on man, who depends upon mere human aid, for he is like some desert scrub that never thrives, set in a solitary place in the steppes. But happy is he who relies on God, who has God for his confidence. For he is like a tree planted beside a stream, sending his roots down to the water. His leaves are always green. He goes on bearing fruit, but all around him is barren. And he looks out on life with quiet eyes.